you everyone for coming to our Innovation in MedTech event. So to start off, I'm Mikayla, I'm the host. Lovely to meet all of you today. Who has been to a hardware meetup before? Let's just have a show of hands. Awesome, that's a lot of people, and also some new people too. So if you haven't been before, we've been running since 2016, and we're all about bringing people together to showcase amazing companies working in different areas of the hardware space. So we couldn't do this event without our amazing sponsors. First of all, we have MedTech IQ Aotearoa.
My name's Ella. I'm based at the Auckland Bioengineering Institute, but I am here on behalf of MedTech IQ Aotearoa. And we are a national medical device and digital health innovation hub with physical precincts across Auckland, Wellington, Christchurch and Dunedin that are all led locally and coordinated nationally across our stewardship group. And our goal really is to build and accelerate our medtech sector for New Zealand, and we do this through networking, just like this, building our ecosystem of clinicians, researchers, entrepreneurs and investors and more. We curate programs to support the commercialisation journey and uplift or help build visualization to those that are existing in the ecosystem, and we're building bridges to international innovation ecosystems as well. So if you're interested, you can have a look at our website, medtechiq.co.nz, or follow us along on LinkedIn, or come and have a chat. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you, Ella.
I'm Bryon with GPC Electronics. We're a contract electronics manufacturer, so we build things for other people, from PCBAs right through to complete box builds. We've got a factory in Christchurch with about 75 people, a few SMT lines, and we do pretty much anything apart from consumer electronics. So medical, space, aerospace, industrial controls. That's pretty much what we do. Happy to help anybody, not only with the actual manufacturing, but if they've got questions around how to manufacture something or how to test something, if they need help sourcing components for their projects, we can help them out with that as well. So please, look us up. I'm up in Auckland every fortnight for a few days, based at Outset over in Parnell. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett.
Hi everyone, my name's Chris Kamatis. I'm from Globex Engineering. My colleague Ed is over here in the corner. We're a mechanical product development consultancy, and so we really focus on the mechanical product design, not just for scale up and mass manufacture, but also for early stage for your proof of concepts and prototypes that you might need to raise money or get into market to get feedback from customers and iterate on. And so we work across multiple segments. We have customers, many customers in MedTech, including some of the panelists tonight. We really enjoy partnering with our customers to really understand your vision, your use case, the requirements, and develop a solution working in conjunction with your team or with other specialty partners for the electronics design or the industrial design or subsequent manufacture. So really like to get involved and optimize the whole system design. Please come and see us afterwards and have a chat, and love to help you accelerate your product development, bring it to market faster and lower cost. So yeah, thanks.
Hi, I'm David Claridge from Auckland Business Chamber. We're the local business partner for Callaghan Innovation. I connect innovators like you with the resources you need, such as experts, events and funding. Where these resources are provided by Callaghan, some like the Health Tech Activator are moving over into the new public research organisation, the Institute for Advanced Technology. Others, like Callaghan Innovations Grants and the tax incentive advisors, like my colleague Sabina, who's got her hand up there, are moving over into MBIE. There are also other resources available out in the innovation ecosystem that many of you have taken advantage of over the years. We will keep connecting you with these. So come and talk with Sabina or me, or contact us via the Callaghan website. We should remain easy to find. Thank you.
And last of all, I'd like to thank our venue here tonight. So GridAKL is an open plan co-working startup hub built to help startups and entrepreneurs connect, collaborate, and grow. Alongside a flexible workspace and a community of entrepreneurs, GridAKL provides support services such as legal and accounting, advice, PR and market training, business coaching, and a range of programs to help businesses grow from early stage upwards. GridAKL also hosts a variety of events in the tech and startup space, creating opportunities for connection, collaboration, and innovation. So thank you, Grid. So now I will invite up our first speaker, David White from Goodair. Thank you so much for joining me, David.
My pleasure, Mikayla.
So could you tell me about Goodair?
Goodair is a recent startup company. It was founded just on Christmas 2022, so really only became operative in early 2023. And we've been very focused and very linear in trying to get to market. So yes, we didn't want to have to dilute and go for multiple funding rounds, so we made the brave decision to get some seed funding and with the help of various parties and try and get to market with what we had.
Awesome. And what exactly do you do at Goodair?
I'm the Chief Science Officer, so I invented the technology and yeah, my role is essentially developing the science for future markets. So we entered the markets as a well-being product, not as a medical device, even though the technology was originally developed as a medical, well, for medical purposes. So we wanted to do that so that we didn't have all the large regulatory hurdle to get over. So my role is to guide the current research that's being undertaken to open up new markets that go beyond the current one that we've just launched in August. We launched the product in August. So we've got 4 different types of research going on at the moment. I can't be too specific on that, as you can imagine, because they are future markets to move into. However, my role is to identify the areas to research, identify the researchers. So I've got quite a good network going across multiple institutions where I bring people together. We look at how we can fund in terms of resourcing the research to be undertaken. There's a challenge, of course, when you're wearing 2 hats, where you're leading the science but also part of the company, in so much as you have an ethical dilemma where you could be seen to be biasing the results. So although I can configure and set up the clinical studies, I need to step back from the actual operations so that I'm not seen to be influencing the results at all. So everything becomes independent after a certain period of time, at a certain point. So my main role at the moment is around guiding the science for future markets for the company so it can skew into other markets as well.
Yeah, it's very interesting how you've gone through did you say like not a lifestyle device,
it's a well-being
device, over just going into the medical market. Cool. And how does this product work?
It works by high frequency occlusion of the airways. So it's basically an oscillator for the airflow. So it's been well proven by other people that humming's really healthy for you. It's healthy for your airways, it's healthy for your brain. The challenge that we face is we can only hum when we exhale. So we actually lose most of the benefit from humming. So humming's been known for many centuries as being beneficial across many cultures, and we've essentially mechanised it so that you can hum on the inhale and anyone can do it. And the device is tuned so that it operates at a correct frequency that achieves maximum stimulation. I don't want to get too much into the specifics, but essentially it needs to operate at a certain frequency to be very effective. So there's a traditional breathing practice called Brahmari pranayama, which is basically big fat bumblebee breathing. All right. So it's at a bumblebee frequency, which is a middle C note. So it works by it's a mechanical device. So it's got little motors in there and rotors that turn. And the rotors are basically just a rotary valve. And because it's at a relatively high frequency, there's no real noticeable obstruction in your airflow. The previously researchers have used humming for treating people's airways, but they've delivered the humming entirely by external power sources. So they've used large speakers to achieve that, and of course, it needs to make the acoustic volume of about 83 decibels. So it's like having a lawnmower running beside your head, which is not very good. So what we've done is we've utilised the power of the diaphragm in the body, which is one of the largest muscles in the body, to realise the power. And that's where the power source is driven from. So we only need a very small battery to run the motors. So although I earlier described my role as being science lead, now that we've gone to market, I'm also having a bit of a role in terms of social media, which is...
That's quite different.
It's very challenging. So I don't do all the regular answers, but there's often people have questions around, well, we've got a regular sort of response here where someone that's brought the product is very happy with it. That's all well and good. But there's also keyboard scientists who try and sort of say, well, it's not going to work for these reasons. You know, it's in a public forum, and I think, oh, okay, well, maybe we need to respond to that in a more formal way. So I am having now to put some time into responding formally and referencing other people's research work to justify our position and claims. So in a startup, you end up doing lots of different roles. It's not just you're doing the role that you're sort of officially designated to. It's really I think everyone has to be diverse in their skill base to make it all work.
Do you know if these people that are saying it, like they don't think it would work, are they actually customers? Have they actually used it?
It's hard to know. I often in my responses tell people to, well, buy one and see how you go, sort of thing. I mean, I should be in sales, shouldn't I, not CSO? I've always been a great believer of the product speaks for itself. And so even when we're testing in the lab in its very early days, I would be one of the first users to convince myself that it was even going to work. And then I'd get my family to use it, and then friends, and so on and so on. So I think you've got to be very sure of yourself before you go to market that you've got a good product. I think it's vitally important.
Absolutely. And yeah, how is it made?
How is it made? So we've done all the design work in New Zealand. So all the original background science work was done while I was working at AUT, and it was commercialised through AUT Ventures. But all of the hardware, software, electronics design, all of that's been done locally. There was quite a bit of work done in terms of user experience as well, because we had several embodiments that we wanted to try out, different shape, forms and functions. But we finally settled on a particular configuration. Our CTO had connections with a company in China, so we're getting it made in China. And we've had our first batch delivered and sold in New Zealand recently. So I'm very happy with how that's gone. There's been a lot of contractors that we've employed with specialist skills, particularly around electronics design and motor design, because it's one thing to design your own flat little miniature motor, but getting it to optimise and run for a long period of time has been a bit of a challenge. So anyone here that's in motor design will know that it's not a simple task.
And what's the journey look like so far?
Well, yeah, it's. I thought I'd put the slide up here because it helps me remember all the different journeys that occurred. So I originally conceived it, as I mentioned, as a medical device, and luckily I was talked down from my high horse by the CEO, Kerry. So Kerry worked for 6 months at AUT Ventures, trying to get the business justification and look at the markets. And she came to me and she said, David, you're being unrealistic. You've got all these ambitions around it being a medical device to treat all these illnesses in a new and novel way. But the reality is it's going to be a really hard mountain to climb, and we need to be pragmatic about this. So why don't we make this a wellness device, and why don't we go into nasal congestion? And I thought about it for a while. I thought, okay, so not quite realising, you've got to take the journey to really understand what it means. So we targeted nasal congestion, and with that, that includes allergies as well as just normal congestion through perhaps infection, or just perhaps persistent mouth breathing, or just a blocked nose for some unknown reason. So we thought we'd target that, and We took on the team on board, so there was myself, Kerry, and Aaron Judson were the founders. Aaron was in the marketing, scoping out the marketing side. He's now moved on to running his own startup now.
Awesome.
So we've enlarged the team. So we took on Chris Thompson as the CTO with his team to undertake the development of the prototypes that were built in lab through to now something that could be manufactured. So there was all the design of the tooling, that sort of thing that needed to be done, as well as the test equipment. You know, so it's not just you have to build the tooling to make the device, you've also got to be able to test it and validate all the circuit boards and all the other pieces of hardware as they go through manufacturing are actually going to have a lot of rejects and a lot of costs. So Chris has been really good with that. We've also got Bianca, who's been in charge of the money. That's really important in any startup. So like I said, we've managed to go from one seed round all the way through to go to market. And we've sold out our first batch in 2 days. But anyone that's ordered, don't worry, we're getting more made. So we've done that without having additional dilution, which is good. And we've now gone back to our funders who have now given us another big tranche of cash so that we can upscale significantly. So that's been really good as well. We've also got Nathan as well, business analysis, and also Danielle. So Danielle's hand packaged everything, organised the couriers, all the logistics. So it's not just about building the product, you've got to get it out there as well, and you've got to be able to connect with the distributors. So there's a whole lot of small tasks that are essential. So it's been a very good experience for me coming in as, oh yes, the inventor and knows everything about the technology, but knowing nothing about the business pathways and what it takes to translate it, and having a good plan and sticking to that plan, and everyone going in a linear fashion to the one target. It's been really important for us to get where we are in 2.5 years. So it's been busy. It's been a busy time, and I work 30% for the company, and my other 70% is working as a senior researcher at the College of Chiropractic, which I'm very thankful for. So it's been quite a journey, to put it mildly, and it's been great, and I've learnt a tremendous amount in that.
Awesome. And what's the future shaping up to look like for Goodair?
Okay, what's the future hold? So we've done a soft launch. So that involved, we were selling from the website, and we were also in PB Tech. So they took a few hundred of our units as a trial. And it was pretty quiet for a day, and then they forced me to go on TV. You can imagine, I mean, I'm not a public person, so this is a bit of a leap for me. So imagine going on TV, it's even more difficult. But anyway, it was a lot of fun, actually. And 2 days later, we'd sold everything out, and we've now got a whole lot of back orders that we're looking to fill. And so we've ramped up the production. Of course, luckily, we've now got all of our manufacturing, validation and test equipment built. So that's all been built in New Zealand. So that's now been shipped off to China. So we can talk about large order numbers now. So we're talking, tens of thousands, larger numbers than that again, just with a soft start, not much advertising in New Zealand. We're looking to next expand to Australia and then go to the Northern Hemisphere. So which countries have allergies? Which countries have nasal infections? It's worldwide, it's an $88 billion industry. Wow. So in New Zealand, it's 480 odd million over the counter for pharmaceuticals, antihistamines and steroids. And this is the first opportunity that people have to use a mechanical solution. I'll use that word mechanical because it just shouldn't be there. That doesn't put anything in your body. So you don't have issues about long-term use leading to rebound congestion or bone loss and death in your nose, okay? So this is a chance. You can't overdose. It's good for you in so many ways. So people are really getting on board with it as an alternative, because it is quite challenging because you wear it on your face. But we have put things in our ears, so why not put things up our nose?
It's a hard thing to test out, I guess. Like, you can't just try before you buy, really, can you? Or can you
we were sort of doing that at PB Tech because people were saying, oh, I don't know about this. So we had some customers come in. I've got one here just to show everyone. They came in and they said, oh, I don't know about this, and it's embarrassing and everything. So we said, okay, well, just plug it in and walk around the store. So they did, and they came back 20 minutes later, I'll buy one. Yeah, and that was good, because again, the product needs to speak for itself. You know, it is really challenging putting, you know, I'll put it in my nose. There you go, you see. In fact, I'll turn it on so you can hear it.
Does it fall out very easily?
No, I've got to pull it out. It has different size silicone tips, so you can adjust it for your size of your nose. So, yeah. Can you hear that?
It does sound like a buzzy bee.
Is that a buzzy bee? There you go. As I've been told, it's not the sort of thing you take on a first date. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. So we anticipate it will be something it's like your toothbrush, okay? So we're saying use it first thing in the morning and last thing at night for 10, 12 minutes. You can't overdose. A lot of people that have used it have got back to me and said, can you overdose? Because I find it's enjoyable. I either forget it's in my nose or I wear it for as long as the battery lasts, which is about an hour and a half. And no, it's fine. It's fine. It's only doing goodness.
I love that. And last of all, is there anything the audience can do to help you today?
Yes. Well, I did come here as CSO, so we're running a study, okay? And we're interested in how nasal breathing influences mood and sleep, okay? Now, you might think, how is this possible? Because the nose is just a place where air travels through the body, right? But the reality is the nose has mechanoreceptors that go straight into the brain, and they influence how the brain communicates in distal regions. So brain functional connectivity is strongly influenced by the nose, as shown by young children learn better when they breathe through their nose. That's well proven. It's not artwork. So we are looking at how this influences mood and sleep. So anyone that's interested in being part of the study, you don't have to be really stressed or really depressed. In fact, we just, sadly, as an indictment of our modern world, you just have to be living in this modern world and we're experiencing these things. You don't have to be an innovator to be sad and depressed. No, this is just anyone, okay? And we're looking at the effects and benefits it brings to people. So if you're interested, I've got some flyers as well, or you can scan the QR code. But we're looking for participants. It's a 60-person study, all right? So we're looking for plenty of people. If you're interested, you get a free device.
Ooh.
There we go, yeah. $220 retail. I'm not in sales, but yeah, so there we go.
Was there a trigger moment for you to pursue Goodair? And if so, what was the trigger?
Meaning the nose buds technology, I presume. Yep. So we were in the biodesign lab working on a new type of CPAP technology that influenced people's sleep staging. So we could give people a good or bad night depending on the program, and we were wondering what the mechanisms were. And we were chasing one of those mechanisms, which is a gas called nitric oxide vasodilator, bronchodilator, that's available in the nasal airways. And someone said to me, well, wouldn't it be nice, you don't have to put a mask on, you don't have to have a CPAP machine, why don't you develop something? Why don't you just invent something that's going to be smaller? And as an engineer, that's sort of like a challenge, right? So I went home that night, and the next morning I thought, yep, we can do it. So we built the first one the next day, just quickly 3D printed something, went down to the model shop, got a little motor from a model aeroplane, put some resistors in it just to drop the voltage so we could get the speed about right. I know that's really dodgy, but when you're doing proof of concept, you just do the quickest, dirtiest way to get to where you need to be. And it worked. We were measuring nitric oxide at the back of the nasal pharynx, and it increased it 7 to 11-fold. So that's what we were looking for. So that was the sort of eureka moment. I needed to. That was in November. I needed to go on to holiday on the beach to figure out to turn it into little rotors versus large discs. So it evolved. By the time, probably by January, we'd had it as you see here in its version. So COVID came along at that time. So we did a lot of the development work from our houses, and the early prototypes, when we were allowed back at work, we had to wear face masks. I don't know if you remember those happy days. So I was the person walking up and down Queen Street and through the city that was humming happily, because guess what was beneath the mask, right? It was my nose buds. So they had lots of use, all right? So again, you got to test things out.
Awesome. Oh. I'm going to have to do this every minute. Cool. And presumably you plan to move from a wellbeing device to a medical device manufacturer. Can you tell us a little more about your regulatory strategy for that?
The regulatory strategy. Well, it's currently a Class 1 FDA device, which is a registration only and minimal QMS. So it'll go to a Class 2 if we start making medical claims. So obviously with that we need to introduce our own in-house QMS, manufacturing QMS systems, etc., and also get regulatory approval for the device. We haven't examined yet whether the 510K route is possible, which is a predicate. There is another device called a Sinusonic, which is a large battery pack with a rubber horn that you hold that hums, but it's a speaker-only system. So it was the earlier one that I spoke about that you need a lot of power. And they've been in the market for about 2 years. They've gone off market now. So I think it wasn't very successful because it was a hands hold. So we get people using our device for doing dishes. Driving the car is a popular one. I think that's because no one can see you in the car, can they? So you're okay there. Anyway, let's stick to the regulatory thing. So it's early days for us regulatory. What we're doing at the moment is we're trying to make the company highly profitable. Okay, that's the first stage, so it can fund all of these extra challenges, and the regulatory challenge is going to be a big one. There's no doubting it. So in the meantime, we can still do the science, the background science, which is obviously going to be needed as evidence. All right. We're doing some of our research work is funded by the US government, who are interested in the idea of brain stimulation through breathing, which is really exciting. I mean, you could see someone with a turban, a yoga person, being of interest to that group of people, but essentially this is sort of like a variant of yoga breathing.
Cool. Does it help stop snoring?
I can't make medical claims. However, we get lots of reports of that, because what it does is when we breathe in, when we inhale, we tense our airways so they don't suck shut. And we do that subconsciously, so it's automatic function. So when we inhale and we hear it and we feel it, it helps synchronize those muscles to tighten, so that when you're asleep, that tightening still occurs in phase with your breathing cycle. So that's a science side, and no claims, but we get lots of reports of people say, my snoring is much better. I get less complaints. Because none of us snore, right?
Interesting. The electronics are quite compact. Who did the electronic design?
Well, the electronics have always been compact. So we looked online and we looked at PCB printed rotor coils originally, but we used that for a lot of the early prototypes, but the current was quite high, so the battery life was low. So Chris Thompson and his team did all the electronics design for this last iteration.
Yeah, it is a very compact device. While you were wearing masks during COVID, you would have no idea that you were wearing that, right?
No, that's right. So, yes, it's. I was very pleased and proud of the team in the Biodesign Lab. So that was Arian Prince-Pike and Jacob Deleps did all the hardware and electronics development work.
Mm-hmm. What makes a wellness device stay relevant in the market?
It's got to bring substantial benefit that's meaningful for people. Otherwise, why would you buy it? It's as simple as that. Many people have breathing issues as well, whether it's mouth breathing, which is just a habit you acquire, through to, or could be caused by nasal congestion. About 30%, 10 to 30% of the population have allergies, seasonal allergies, or pet allergies, which are not seasonal, and that's really uncomfortable. Imagine not having to take antihistamines. So we've had lots of reports of people with long-term use of antihistamine steroids saying life is better. So again, we're saying nasal congestion, we're not saying the other stuff, but if the customers say it, well, we just can't stop them. So that makes it very relevant. So I think to answer the question, you've got to give a good solution to a problem that's like a hair on fire problem. Yeah, and although we try and hide if our nose is blocked or whatever, it's really uncomfortable. We can't think straight. Yeah, it's not a nice position, and we certainly can't sleep well. So poor sleep quality, not being able to think straight, that's a pretty high price to pay, isn't it, ultimately? So if that could be fixed by mechanical means, well, why not?
This is a personal question. Like, how long do you need to like keep it into like for the minimum time? I guess obviously it will vary person to person. To properly decongest.
We're saying 12 minutes twice a day. Yeah. Although if you forget and you leave it in for an hour, better still. Yeah. But yeah, 12 minutes twice a day. So preferably in the morning, so you get the day's benefit, and in the evening as well. Okay.
And the time it would take an antihistamine to like kick in, like that's
absolutely.
Really
and you've got the benefits of, well, that your nose is going to be decongested for sleep as well. So a lot of people do, maybe not related to snoring, but even then they don't snore, they've reported they sleep a lot better.
Could you talk about the adjustability of the device? Like, are the different size nose plugs the only form of adjustment?
No, they're not. So the nose tips themselves have different lengths, as well as they're basically like a mushroom shape. So they're quite squishy, because nostrils are not round. So they're and everyone's got infinitely different shaped nostrils. So we worked with a product designer, Oscar Zong, very early on, and our original embodiments were separate devices that plugged in just like nose tips or nose buds or whatever. Oh, sorry, earbuds, I get this right. They look just exactly the same. We did that because the nostrils point in different directions, et cetera, et cetera. But we soon realized that they fell out easy. So the current embodiment has the nose tips angle in. So there's a clamping effect on the septum. So they clamp on the septum, and they also have the mushroom effects. They hook over the form of the nares as well. So no, you can jog in them if you want. If they fall out, you've got the wrong tips in. You just need to change that.
Can't say the same for those AirPods. They always fall out of my ears, and they are not adjustable. By the way, me and David are related. He is my dad, so that's why we have a bit of we're a bit mean to each other sometimes. Last question now, how do you protect your IP with manufacturing in China? Like, copycats could be a real risk in China for this.
Yes, we do have a strategy in place that involves design, registration, trademarks. So name's important and form's important as much as patents. It's a whack-a-mole battle, and I think every manufacturer faces that. However, if you can get yourself into market and dominance in market before the copycats start, then people will recognise the quality in the name, and then you just have to protect that.
Do you guys have patents right now?
Yeah, and they've been awarded. Yeah.
Congratulations.
In multiple countries. Yeah. Patents are interesting because as an inventor, you think once you've got a patent, you're in. Well, no, that's just the beginning, apart from your wallet opens every year and you've got to spend all that money. But you've got to defend it if someone copies. And that's, you're into tens, hundreds of thousands, millions potentially. And often the strategy is a big company will take you on, and they've got in-house lawyers. So you need to be very smart in your strategy. You need to be early and active and dominant in the market quickly, or else there will be challenges. Some business strategies are not pleasant, but that's business.
Yep. And last question, can you tell us who did your industrial design?
So it was done in-house with Chris Thompson and his team. Yeah, so we had early on Oscar Zong working on it, but yeah, Chris Thompson did the current version. And we're very pleased with that.
Yeah, it's very impressive. Awesome, cool. Thank you so much, David, for all your time today and the wonderful answers.
Great, thank you everyone.
So now we have Bryon from Kitea Health. Thank you for joining me today. Could you tell me about Kitea Health and what you guys do?
Yeah, so Kitea Health is obviously a MedTech company, but what we're trying to do is improve the lives of people with conditions like hydrocephalus or heart failure.
Oh, sorry, just could you hold it up?
Is that better?
Yeah, you
Okay.
can also point it outwards like that, yeah.
Even better. So these people have chronic health conditions, and quite frankly, their life can be hell when these things happen. And currently, they have a very basic physiologic problem that can't be sensed because it's quite invasive to sense this traditionally. So what happens is these people get launched into this just absolutely anxiety-inducing healthcare reaction, which you can kind of see here, which involves a whole host of costly and, quite frankly, dangerous interventions to see if indeed they have a life-threatening event going on in their life. And that can happen over and over throughout their lifetime. So it's a chronic condition. So what we want to do is bring a solution to this. However, actually what they really need to do, and this is the unmet need, is need to be able to go home and measure their brain pressure. And so that sounds very basic. It's almost like we're saying go home and measure your temperature. You would just grab a thermometer. Of course, you can't do that for your brain. It's currently an unmet need. And so what we have done is designed a technology platform that allows people to measure their brain pressure in their home. And I could go a bit into the detail of this, but maybe there's not enough time, but essentially it allows them to stay out of the hospital and at home when they don't need to be there, saving cost and reducing anxiety.
So what exactly is hydrocephalus?
Hydrocephalus is a condition that some people are born with, some people acquire, but essentially what happens is a fluid buildup inside of the cranium, the brain, that isn't drained correctly, and so pressure builds up. And the ill effect, of course, is that if there's a lot of pressure inside your brain, the blood flow to your brain gets shut off, and your brain starts to die. So the acute cases of hydrocephalus mean that you have to get treated within, under a day, or it can lead to coma or death. So it's quite a dangerous condition.
Absolutely. So how does your system work?
So the Kitea system, here we go, is essentially two components, which we'll talk about today. One is an implantable pressure sensor. So that's just a very small implant that's placed inside the brain. And it gets read by a handheld electronic, which we call the wand. So that's about the size of your hand there. And those two things interact to measure the brain pressure. And then the person can simply read the brain pressure off of the display on the wand. Of course, as part of a home, like a monitoring network for home health care, the data also gets sent to an app that we've developed that can go to a clinical portal that gets fed back to clinicians, caregivers, and of course Kitea. And through this, we can improve the sort of monitoring and treatment of hydrocephalus at home. Yeah. So I don't know where this fits in, but we can go ahead and talk about this. This is basically what's happening with the system. You can see here on the left, the Kitea sensor that's been surgically implanted inside of the parenchyma of a brain in one of our current clinical trial patients. To give you an idea of size, that's a ventricular catheter, so that's about 3 millimeters in diameter. A very small sensor. In fact, the world's smallest discrete sensor for neurosurgical treatment. But what it gives you basically is a series of data points taken over a long term. So this is actual data from our clinical trial in which a patient has been taking their pressure daily or every other day just to sort of establish a baseline. This patient, fortunately, is doing quite well. That's a very nice trend to see. Each time they take a data point, we're also recording a waveform. And that waveform, you can see it has a little bit of pulsatility. That is actually your heartbeat being read through the brain. So that pressure does go up through your head eventually. But very, very small pressure signals. So we have to be able to do this very, very accurately and very, very stably. That, of course, data set gets taken by everybody who's using our system daily or weekly. And all of that data gets sent back to Kitea through our portal and builds up a massive data set. So what we're basically developing here is a huge greenfield data set that we can use to both help the patients with our technology, but also use it to drive new technology and better outcomes for these hydrocephalus patients.
Awesome. And what goes into making this system? So there's the wand and there's also the implant, right?
Yeah, right. So the two main components of our system are the implant, which you see here. This thing's about a few millimeters around. This is a ventricular catheter, by the way. This actually drains the pressure out. It's the treatment. What we're doing is monitoring. So it's a few millimeters around by maybe 20 millimeters long, and it has that form factor so you can inject it during the surgery through a small hole that's made in the skull. And inside of there, you have to shove in quite a bit of functionality. So inside of there, there's two main components. One is a pressure transducer, which for us is a custom designed MEMS component, if you're into microfabrication. And the other is an incredibly small bespoke electronics package that includes both custom design integrated circuitry that we've done in-house, and then some bespoke assembly of those electronics that we also do in-house. So that's the electronics package, and that gets sealed inside of a hermetic glass enclosure. And that's quite important because it allows us to reside in the brain for essentially the lifetime of the patient. So that's component one, the implant. That gets made not just in New Zealand. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of like MEMS fabs in New Zealand or semi-fabs in New Zealand, so we do some of this overseas. But through clean room processes, high-tech MEMS glass manufacturing partners, and also just some custom and bespoke electronics manufacturing in-house at Kitea over at Future's House in Parnell. And sealed up and sent off.
So if I got this right, so when they have the fluid build up, they have the surgery to remove the fluid, and when that happens, they then insert the implant at the same time.
The treatment is that there's a drain placed, and that drain will stay with them. The problem, which I skipped over at the beginning, sorry, is that those things fail. In 5 years, about 50% of the people that receive shunts will have a failure, meaning they will have a life-threatening event where they have to go to the hospital, but they'll also have a number of false alarms. That's where the anxiety comes in. In 10 years, almost 100% of these shunts fail. They have the highest failure rate of any neurosurgical treatment. So it's, like I said, an unmet need for whether or not they actually need to actually go to the hospital. So
Absolutely.
So this is our other component. We call it the wand for obvious reasons. It's kind of like something you wave around your head. Of course, it's talking to the implant. It both powers the implant and receives data back from the implant, and that data is the pressure signal. And one of the more surprising things we had is this is one of our standout patients. In fact, she likes to go out and she doesn't mind talking about her condition and her use of our technology, but she uses the wand backwards from how we designed it. So there's a little unintended design outcome for the company, but hey, it still works. That's great. But basically, you hold it up to your head, you press the button, and 10 seconds later, you have that life-saving information. The wand itself is a PCBA assembly. I'm not going to try and represent that too much, but again, some bespoke stuff that we do manufacture this in-house. If you want to know more, you talk to team member Kevin, who's sitting over there and smiling now.
Wave, Kevin.
Yeah, wave your hand, Kevin.
It was a very reluctant wave.
So that's the wand.
Cool. And what's the journey look like so far?
Yeah, so Kitea was founded in early 2022, but this is after 8 years of government-funded research. Thank you, New Zealand government, including Callaghan, for what that is. So we had to put in quite a bit of non-diluted funding to even get this technology off the ground. It's quite a deep tech venture, obviously, with a significant amount of risk that has to be de-risked, and that was done essentially on the government dime. That team has always intended to spin out the company, and so in 2022, we spun out Kitea Health. The journey with Kitea Health then is how to get this into market. And so our journey into the market right now is we have done our first in-human clinical trial. We're developing our final manufacturing facility here and in Parnell. And in addition, we're preparing for what's called an investigational device exemption so we can go to the US for a pivotal clinical trial so we can clear for marketing in the US. So this is a highly regulated system and an active implantable medical device, class 3, high risk, that kind of thing. So it involves significant clinical trial work. So.
Awesome. And is there anything the audience can do to help you today?
Well, you can support us if you know us. Obviously, the people here that we've already interacted with and taken support from, thank you very much. But, you know, we constantly have challenges day to day, and one of the things that we currently are dealing with is stability of, say, mechanical designs like injection molding through suppliers. So if you have suggestions for that, that's an idea. We'd love to hear more.
Awesome. Sweet. Thank you so much, Bryon.
You're welcome.
How long do your clinical trials need to run per patient to collect the data you need for an FDA submission?
In fact, there's a series of clinical trials that we'll be running. So like I said, our first in-human clinical trial is running for about a year, 20 patients through the Auckland City Hospital up the hill. So a year, the answer there, although it's open a bit further. The next trial is about the same duration, but in the United States, and you might call that a pivotal trial. Each one has a slightly different focus. This initial trial was entirely around safety, though we do have some signals of efficacy from it, but the next trial would be around showing that the system actually does what it's intended to do.
Cool. Does inserting the implant affect brain function?
Not as far as we can tell. And so a few things. Working up to this, of course, we've done extensive animal work, and answer there, no. Essentially perfectly normal behavior in our animal models. And so far from our human implantation trial, there's absolutely no effects from the implantation. You could maybe summarize it as the risk profile of inserting this device is about the same as inserting the treatment, which is the shunt, which is acceptable. Yeah.
David, my Slido's not ordering questions properly. I'll just go off the screen. How has the VC response been to a medical device with a long regulatory pathway?
Yeah, good question. It's like I said, we benefited from non-VC funding for about 8 years. So non-dilutive government funding was absolutely key to getting this technology off the ground, needs to be said. But after that, we had a very enthusiastic response from the VC community during our seed round. So we raised something like, I think it's 5 point something million for the seed round, which has carried us through the first 2.5 years of the company. Broad-based support from quite a few VCs, with others wishing they could do some as well. So we've had great support. Of course, VCs do want quicker turnaround, and I will note that it seems like the New Zealand community is maybe more based around revenue-searching companies or SaaS companies, and so messaging that as a medical device company with potentially a 7 to 10 year development cycle has been part of our journey. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How often does the sensor need to be replaced, and does it sit in the brain or nets to it?
It gets directly implanted into the brain, so the gray matter of the brain, as you would have seen in that CT slice that I showed. And it's in there effectively for the lifetime of the patient. And I can say a large number of our patients are going to be very young children. So if you're an engineer, one of the interesting things we have to do at Kitea is make sure that our engineering is appropriate for incredibly long lifetimes. So we do our utmost to put our components, for instance, that go inside of the implant through rigorous testing to show that they have workable lifetimes for the FDA's purposes, 5 to 10 years, depending on which submission we're talking about, but effectively on our own, sort of feeling about what we need to do, it has to work for 100 years. So.
How many people globally suffer from hydrocephalus?
Yeah, good question. Millions of people, and more every day, as it turns out. So initially, like I said, sometimes this is congenital. In New Zealand, about 200, 300 people a year get diagnosed, but wow. In the U.S., it's closer to 10,000. These are people that are gaining that diagnosis. And they, by and large, get treated with shunts, and by and large, they would be able to use our technology to monitor that shunt. So it's not one of the huge incidence type medical treatment, but it is definitely an unmet need, and therefore sort of a clean space to go into. There are no competitors in the U.S. So turns out, though, recent medical trials have shown that elderly people who often are misdiagnosed as, say, having dementia or other types of, say, degenerative diseases actually have a form of hydrocephalus that can be monitored with our technology.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's actually a field of current research. When I say we have a greenfield data set, the kind of data we're getting now isn't currently available. So our ability to actually bring new treatments to the market is going to be important as we grow into our own commercial journey. So,
I'm like, how easy is it to diagnose the condition? Like, is it quite obvious when a kid has it, for example?
I'm not a doctor, Mikayla.
Oh, okay. That's a very valid answer. But I guess, do you know, are there any kind of common side effects and kind of things that...
Sometimes it's just obvious, but it can be diagnosed through imaging techniques. Cool. So like MRIs and CTs, it can be diagnosed through symptoms or those kind of things over time. But like I said, it presents in quite a different ways. It has quite a complicated etiology, so I can't give a quick or, quite frankly, well-educated answer there,
Yep.
but good question.
But like, yeah, I guess unless you have an MRI, it's not necessarily easy to just know that you have it then. Yeah, so it's a bit more complicated.
Yeah, and in fact, we have to make sure that our technology is compatible with things like MRI or CT scanning, because those will continue to be used as the standard of care for hydrocephalus until we can break that.
Why do shunts have such a high failure rate? Is that an issue you intend to address?
Yeah, blood and other sort of body materials like intracranial fluid are interesting. They're not just liquid, right? They have a protein component to them, and they have cells inside of them, and they have tissue stuff that sloughs off. It's a very complicated fluid, and that's flowing through the shunt. So generally, way these things fail is that they will get some kind of buildup and clog at one of the pores. So if you look closely when I showed the shunt, maybe I can go back.
Oh, no, we have the slider up now.
Oh, darn, sorry. If you look closely, there are a bunch of little holes inside of the shunt. They just clog. There's other ways that they fail, but essentially they clog. Yeah, and once they clog, they're done.
Wait, so how does the fluid come out of the holes? Like, is it just like inserted into the skull and then the fluid can just come out of like a hole in your head?
Yeah, it's quite a grim thing to think about, but essentially there's a hole drilled in the head during the surgery. One of these shunts is inserted through the brain into a ventricle, which is kind of a fluid-filled space inside of your brain. And that pops out. It goes underneath the skin, and the surgeon has to sort of furrow a little hole down. I know we're a bunch of engineers and don't like to think about such things, but that's the case. And it goes down and actually generally will drain straight into the gut.
Oh, interesting.
So think of it as like a garden hose draining. Your pool goes into the street. Pool, brain, street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you don't just have an open hole at all times in your head.
Ideally not.
Yeah, because that's what I was imagining.
No,
to
in fact,
be a
that goes to design of our system. Other people have concepted these kind of systems in the past that have a penetration through the skull, essentially, to measure pressure. And that's how it's done for short-term monitoring. That doesn't work at home long-term because of the risk of infection and other risks associated with having a permanent, sort of like thing through your skull.
Yes.
So we wanted to avoid that. And we've done that by using this, obviously, as wireless implementation.
Awesome. What does your business model look like? How does a patient buy this device and service?
Oh, this is a huge and complicated question. I'm not sure who's asked this, but maybe we can give the full details a bit later. But if you're talking about a medical device, the business model is around, of course, finding the people that are willing to pay for it, your payers, who will reimburse those people, making sure people are interested in using it, so proving benefit. So you have to do all of these strands at the same time in order to go to market. And it involves regulatory strategy. It involves, we have to prove to the FCC that we can market in the United States because it's a wireless device. So it's quite a huge technical, clinical, regulatory, and other kind of reimbursement sort of inputs to that. You have to approach all those more or less at the same time and build into them as you get closer and closer to regulatory approval. So our strategy was de-risk the technology, thank you government yet again, and then take that de-risk technology and go through the translational exercise for manufacturing, which is what our journey is part right now, but at the same time, make sure that we can actually sell these things to the market by getting through the regulatory hugest burden, and then the other kind of things I just mentioned. Yeah.
Why do you do PCBA in-house?
Well, you don't actually have a PCB manufacturing plant in-house in Future's house. You're probably aware of that. We do get these components in, but the actual assembly for us is part of our held IP. So the way of making these things incredibly small is at the limit of what you can kind of do with normal PCB assembly. So we've decided to in-house that. So we have a lot of inbuilt technology about how to actually make these things to an incredibly tight dimension. So our tolerancing stack-ups are pretty insane at times. And that's part of what we do in-house. And we want to own that to de-risk our technology.
During the development of the implant and with the position in the brain, have there been other potential users considered?
Oh yeah, you can take pressure. Mainly we're talking here about taking it out of the body. So the big one that you would think about is, of course, cardiac pressure. It's relatively easy to measure peripheral cardiac pressure. You just get a cuff, or you can get into a vein. However, if it's in your pulmonary circuit, it's somewhat hidden. So getting that signal out is about as challenging as getting it out of the cranium. It's quite deep inside the body. You can't readily run wires out. The way of doing it now is just a temporary intervention. So a technology that allows you to measure pressure in there is already in the market, but in a sort of analog version that isn't that stable. So we feel we have the next generation technology in that space, but we're not first movers. So we've made a strategic decision to go for hydrocephalus. With, hopefully, success, we can also approach heart failure monitoring.
Awesome. Cool. And I'll give the last question now. What happens in a strong electromagnetic field enough to fry the coil?
Yeah, that'd be a problem, well, to say the least. Yeah, I could get away with saying which coil. There's more than one. The implant coil, I think, is what you're talking about. So if you put in enough energy into that coil, your problem is heating up the skin. So what happens is that the energy that we're putting into the actual system that goes into that coil is actually at the end of having to go through all of that tissue, and that tissue actually absorbs the energy. And so the real challenge here is being able to deliver enough energy deeply inside the body, that's down at the implant, without overcooking the skin. So actually destroying the coil is hard because you'd be boiling the skin first. And so we don't really have that issue so much, and sending it out, it's a very weak signal. So more so, we'd need to avoid that while we're manufacturing it. Those kind of problems. Yeah.
Awesome.
We've never had such an issue. You have to get the field quite intense, quite specifically at our frequency next to the implant. Yeah.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you very much, Bryon.
Thank you very much, Mikayla. Thank you all.
Cheers. Alrighty, it's my favorite time. It's pitch time! Yay! Chris, do you want to come up and talk about your trade board to start? Because Chris always has something cool to show.
So if you were here last time, I was talking about the train map for Auckland, and I mentioned the one for Wellington. This is the one for Wellington. You might have seen it outside before. It's all done. I'm currently struggling a little bit because I sold out in 3.5 hours, and I have a batch of 50 of these. So the fun thing I've been doing last couple of days is printing out all these little feet that hold up the circuit board. It's fine when you have to make 20 of them. Making 200 is a bit of a pain. Auto eject on printers, it's a whole lot of work, but I seem to have figured it out. Anyway, if you've got interesting questions, this has been a fun project. KiCad's awesome. Arduino is good enough for production products.
Thank you, Chris. I'm sure we have some people in the audience that love trains. Hello, Simon.
Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm Simon. I am on the Space Systems Propulsion team at Rocket Lab, as you might have guessed from the rocket engine on my shirt. We're hiring a avionics test engineer, ideally with 3-ish years of experience, maybe more, maybe less, doing vibration testing, thermal testing, shock testing, that kind of thing. It's for our ion propulsion team, so it's quite a cool project. It's going to be made in New Zealand, exported overseas and then to space. So pretty cool role, looking to fill it in short order. So if you're interested, come and talk to me. It's on the website, avionics test engineer, located in Auckland. Thanks a lot.
Awesome, thank you.
Hello, I'm Mungshin. I'm a Auckland graduate, studying electrical engineering at AUT. If you guys have any internships or grad roles, I'm keen to connect with you guys as well. And also, if you guys have any ideas, how to deal with killing flies without me moving my butt, I also love to know that as well. Thank you.
I was once given an electric fly swatter, and I had so much fun with mosquitoes. It was fantastic.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Adrian. I'm an urgent care doctor, and I'm the founder and CEO of Rapidose. Rapidose is a medical device that aims to prevent serious medication error in pediatric resuscitation. Most of the parents in this room will know the challenges of getting the right dose of Pamol for your child, especially when your first child is 30 kilograms, your second child is 15, and your youngest child is only 5 kilograms. So doctors and nurses have the same problem as well, and 3 in 10 doses of emergency drugs given by paramedic today is at the wrong dose, and 1 in 10 is a 10-fold overdose. And our goal is to make that into zero, prevent this overdose error. And if you are investors, come talk to me. We are undergoing a seed funding round right now. If you are an engineer, come talk to me as well, because we are looking to expand our team early next year. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hey guys, I'm Jerry, and I'm third year biomedical engineering. And guys, I love internships. And,
I love them too.
But besides that, I also have this student group idea. I really like to connect with industry people. So my idea is that because there is a lot of cool medical project out there to do. And have you guys heard of the Auckland Formula FS?
FSCE?
Yeah,
Yep.
FSC.
They make the cool race cars?
Yes. And we're just wondering whether it could be possible to do the same for a wellness device or a medical device, and just to upskill people in this industry, so we are industry ready. Because I know a lot of my friends looking for internship as well. So just to have be industry ready, and just doing something that in our during our student life that is meaningful. So yeah, I'd love to connect with you.
That's awesome. So you could work as a team to kind of make a medical device. That's really cool.
Hi, I'm Joanna, and
You need to sit down, sorry.
I'm one of the students that Mikayla talked to. I am a third-year computer systems engineer and engineering student. Yeah, I've previously worked at projects such as Smart Monitor, and I'm now working on line following robot and pacemaker, and I am looking for summer internship opportunities because I'm really passionate about medical devices and also embedded systems and software and hardware interfaces. And so come and talk to me if you're also interested. Thank you.
Sweet, thanks.
Hello, my name is Seven Dalzell. I'm the photographer for tonight, but I'm also a student, a mechatronics undergrad at UOA, who's very interested in hearing about summer positions. I am an extremely well-rounded person in the way that I am a jack of all trades in a kind of interesting way. I'm here as a photographer. I'm also an acoustics researcher, as well as a video director for the Engineering Review. In my spare time, I do spectroscopy for drug checking, and that is a lot of different things. I'm also a chemical engineer over last summer, despite being a mechatronics engineering student. So if you're interested in talking to someone who knows a lot of different things and can hold a lot of very broad conversations to some depth, talk to me, please. Seriously. Awesome.
Yeah, man, I don't know how to beat that, but my name is Brendan Yip. I'm a Part 4 biomedical engineer. I also did a mechanical engineering internship over the summer, even though I studied biomedical engineering. But yeah, I'm open for summer opportunities, as I think every single engineering student is. But I feel like my passion kind of comes from biomechanics, from a vested interest in powerlifting. So if any sports science, I'm really interested in that, as well as medical devices. Thank you so much.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, I will say, the internships this year have been very difficult for students. So, if you guys are just looking for any extra help this summer, I'd definitely recommend reaching out to some of the students. It's been a bit more tough than normal this year. And Sneha is one of our amazing volunteers who handles all our social media and stuff. Alrighty. Sneha handles all our social media and stuff, and she does a lot of work for us. So I want to give her the opportunity to give herself a little pitch.
Yep. Hello everyone, I'm Sneha. I'm a second-year computer systems engineering student. So right now I just help Hardware Meetup organize and stuff. And currently I've been doing one cool project in hardware. My first hardware project was 2 weeks ago. I'll talk about that more later. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Oh, okay. Wait, what do I? Yeah, so cool projects, cool people. I actually love Hardware Meetup. I've been to probably 3 events, and then from those 3 events I've gained so much information, and I've learned so many things from people like you guys. I heard a lot about, the the nose buds. That was really interesting because I have allergy problems myself. I'm ooh, might be something I want to look into, So I'm involved in a lot of outreach work. So we hold RoboGals, workshops for primary kids. So we go help out, build little dragster cars and then teach them basic physics concepts. So that's really cool. Currently I'm also involved in Ignite. So Ignite holds a week-long camp in January. So it's for high school students who are from like non-traditional backgrounds essentially, and we like, you know, go to big companies like Fisher & Paykel last year did a site tour for us, and it was really cool. And it was just like a week long. We stay at Wiper, you know, teach the kids about engineering, STEM related activities, get them into like, you know, look into the future, see what they want to do, sort of thing. I will also talk about that more later if any of you guys are willing to do site tours, sponsorships, anything like that. So this was my first ever hardware project. Given it's hardware meetup, I should probably talk about that. So this is called Baby Spice. Baby Spice is that like little bat orange thing there. So me and my friends had an issue. I don't wake up on time. I like sleep through all my alarms, I sleep through everything. So I was like, I need a more chaotic and fun way to wake up. So essentially, we created a bat that flaps its wings and screams whenever sunlight hits it. So it's essentially just a light sensing alarm bat flapping wing thingy. If you want to talk about that more later, we can. And me and my team won second place. So that was great. We learned a lot. Our project wasn't working the night before, by the way. We spent like 12 hours in the lab every day and 11 p.m. on the last day debugging everything. So that was really fun. We had like judges from Google, Apple, all the big tech companies present. So it was nice to hear like feedback from them and what we can do better. So that was really nice. Also, we had like 2 weeks to do this project during mid-sim. So that was fun. So right now I'm just looking for summer internships. I haven't really gotten around to applying. So I was just trying to have a look on what companies I could be interested in. Hardware Meetup has helped me through that. Currently, I'm looking for more maybe startup sort of companies than maybe big companies as well. I just want to see what's out there. What can I do? What can I not do? Yeah, and that's pretty much it. I also want to talk about Ignite a little bit. As I said, this runs throughout Australia and New Zealand. So Australia is called Spark, New Zealand is called Ignite. We currently need sponsors. So sponsors could do side tours, activities, or like, you know, sponsor students that will be joining us in the camp. So this is year 11, 12, and 13 kids. So it's really nice. It's good to, you know, get out. I'm a strong advocate for like women in engineering and stuff like that. So that would be great. Thank you. You can scan the QR code for more information on Ignite as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Neha. Thank you for joining me today.
You're welcome.
So can you tell us about, take your little clicker. Could you tell us about RespirAq and what you guys do?
Awesome. So keeping on theme, RespirAq is another medical device startup.
Crazy.
Great to see all the MedTech startups out. There's a whole lot starting to come out in the works in New Zealand. It's a really exciting space. So RespirAq is a respiratory humidification company. And we've developed our own device. How does this clicker work? There we go. To deliver respiratory humidification. For those of you who don't know what respiratory humidification is or why it's important, basically it's just the simple act of heating and humidifying gas that a patient breathes. Why is that important? Well, if you don't heat gas, their lungs dry out and you get all sorts of nasty complications. So really, really key for helping treat patients, especially when they're most vulnerable. Two key technologies kind of dominate the market. There's what's called heated moisture exchangers, which are really simple devices, but don't really work that well. And then there's active humidifiers, which deliver amazing humidity, but are quite cumbersome to set up. So that kind of sets up the space for RespirAq to come in with something that just sits in the middle. We're basically saying delivering the performance of an active humidifier with the simplicity of an HME. So we've, through our special technology, which I'll talk about in a bit, developed a device which is essentially handheld, just plugs into the patient's breathing circuit and enables basically a really simple way of delivering respiratory humidification.
Awesome. And what led to you working at RespirAq?
So I actually...
Oh, wait, go over this slide first.
Oh yeah,
I
we
like
should
this
go
one.
over this one. This slide I think is a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but just kind of shows a little bit why maybe another device would be good in the market. I think the irony of this picture is you've got a small child with a tube coming out of his throat who looks really happy about it. And then you've got another child playing in the background, and then you've got this medical device which is powered by mains and has a hot tub of water sitting on top of it. And I kind of wonder what could possibly go wrong in this picture. And so we see the opportunity for RespirAq really, particularly in the home care market, really enabling patients to actually have a simpler, safer experience while they're still receiving the therapy that they need.
And yeah, so what's your career journey look like to lead you to here?
So I actually worked at Fisher & Paykel Healthcare for a number of years. It's where I learned about medical devices and how to develop them, and the many other challenges other than just engineering that's involved in bringing a medical device to market. I was fortunate after that to actually join AUT for a small stint where I learnt about research and commercialisation, and my role there was particularly trying to help some of the researchers look for commercial opportunities for their products, and that actually led on to RespirAq, who just happened to be spinning out at the same time. And I thought, yeah, we'll jump across and give them a hand.
Awesome. And so how exactly does this technology work for RespirAq?
Awesome. So the technology, the simple way of explaining it is when you breathe out, your lungs have already humidified the gas, and so you're actually already breathing out moisture. So all we need to do is just collect that moisture and then give it back to you. And so our device is designed around this smart thermopolymer that when it's cool will basically absorb moisture, and then when it's heated it will release moisture. And so all we need to do is synchronize the timing of when it's hot and cold with the patient's breath cycle, and then that allows us to basically collect their exhaled humidity and then deliver it back.
Awesome. And I don't know if you are going into any detail of how you make this.
We will. Yep, we will.
Awesome.
Awesome. So just a little bit on, I guess, some of the benefits. And we were fortunate enough to be able to do a clinical trial, which has shown actually that the technology is pretty similar to active humidifiers in terms of its performance. And that actually led us to be able to get what's called FDA Breakthrough Designation, which is a special program with the FDA that allows them to provide us extra support in the regulatory pathway. Yeah.
Awesome. And so what's the journey look like so far?
So the journey for RespirAq has been a long one, particularly for our founder. She's been at this for well over 10 years and started with her PhD into this special thermopolymer material. That led to a clinical trial, which I mentioned before, where they were able to get the clinical evidence, and the success of that clinical trial enabled getting FDA breakthrough. It also enabled them getting the first seed funding to get the company off the ground. So since that point, we've basically been on a product commercialization journey, taking what was a research prototype and actually turning that into a fully commercial medical device.
So did you guys get like a special a breakthrough thing with the FDA,
Yeah, so there's a special pathway and something you can apply for with the FDA, and if they feel that your device offers a special clinical benefit that they see as really important, and that they would like to see that technology in the US market, then they can give you this breakthrough device designation essentially, and that then just means that we get to have regular conversations with the FDA and ask them a whole lot of questions, so that when we do make our market submission, we've got a clear idea of what their expectations are.
Yep. So from my understanding, there's been a lot of prototypes.
There's been a lot of prototypes. So you guys are the lucky ones who get to see a little bit of our journey. So the prototype on the left there was the clinical trial prototype. Really simple box with some very basic electronics inside. But that was what was enabled us to actually get our first clinical data. Since then, we developed our next prototype, which we thought we'd put a screen on it so that we can actually start to communicate information back. And essentially we're on this journey of taking what was quite a basic prototype and turning it into a medical device, which basically you actually need to start to consider a lot of things around safety. So how do you actually deliver this therapy safely? And so each prototype is an iteration on actually trying to figure that out. the next prototype here, this is sort of when I joined the team. We did a big respin of our electronics to try and build in some of those safety features that were critical for this device to work effectively. And during that time, we also engaged with our friends at Blender, who helped us with the overall industrial design of the product and coming up with its final form factor for us. And there's some of the guts of what we've developed so far, for those of you who like electronics. I do. One laugh, awesome. And so this is the final device. You guys are actually the first people to see this.
Because you guys just filed a patent.
We have just filed our patents and our design IP. So that is all locked away. No one can copy it anymore. But yeah, we were really, really stoked with what Blender were able to do with us and going along their journey to get what we think is a really cool looking device and sort of fits our aspirations for the product.
Congratulations on the paper. That's so exciting.
Yes,
cool.
It is.
And what have been some of your key learnings over this whole process with building RespirAq?
Yeah, so the challenge with RespirAq is no one's done this before. And I think most of the startups here would probably say that no one's done it before. And so there's no sort of guidebook on how to do things. And so we've had to kind of go through what I call the innovation stack, and those of you who read the book, highly recommend. But it has been a journey of sort of innovation on innovation on innovation. And I guess taking you through a little bit of the journey of the actual device that does the humidification. You'll see our first prototype on the left there, which is basically just someone had to like manually wind this wire around this PCB. It took about half an hour, and then solder on a USB-C connector and a whole bunch of components. And then we've got this material, which you can see, which looks a little bit shabby, but that actually contains the magic formula for making the whole device work. That was not going to be feasible to actually put in a medical device. And so we've had to go trying to figure out how do we actually turn this into something that we can actually manufacture en masse. The goal would be to be making millions of these a year. So someone winding something for half an hour is not going to work. So we've been on the hunt, and I guess we've been really fortunate with the New Zealand community to sort of work with a number of different people who've given us all sorts of different ideas on how we can actually build this in a cheap and effective way. And we ended up realizing that actually we need a heater in our device, and we need to be able to sense the breath. And we realized that actually we can do that all with just one flexible PCB. Mm-hmm. And so our key innovation through all of this has actually been to actually build a heater onto a PCB, then being able to solder all the basic sensors that you need on there, and then that can all just magically fold up into what we call our humidification cartridge. And to answer your question from before, how do we actually manufacture the smart material? Well, we're using an electrospinning process where we can actually, using electric fields, deposit the magic polymer onto the PCB as well. And so here's sort of some pictures of the final thing that we've actually been able to come together with. And so that's the magic PCB that sort of houses everything, and then that goes in special plastic housing, and all of that we can manufacture really, really cheaply and really, really easily, so that we can kind of get those economies of scale once we do get to market.
Yeah, that's way smaller than before. Very correct.
Yes.
Awesome. Cool. And what's the future shaping up to look like?
So for us, anyone who's in MedTech knows that there's a lot of documentation that you have to do, and a lot of testing, and fair enough. We all want medical devices that are safe, and so we've developed the technology. Now we're in what you'd call the verification and validation phase, where we are essentially proving that the device is safe and effective, and then doing all the documentation around that to show that. We're also in the manufacturing process, starting to build up our own basic manufacturing processes. Some are done in-house, some are done externally, and so we're building that up as well at the moment.
Mm-hmm. And is there anything the audience can help you with today?
Yeah, so I'm always keen to meet great talent. I always think, particularly in a startup, successful devices rely on a team of great talent working together effectively. And so we're basically just keen to talk to anyone who is great, effective, knows their craft, has great ideas, how we can innovate. And so there's sort of a long list of things there, which basically just covers anything. But yeah, always keen to talk to people who have great ideas. I think one particular thing, if anyone has experience in electrospinning, that would be of interest. But yeah.
Awesome. Sweet. Thank you so much, Matt.
No worries.
What is the business model and who exactly is the customer?
So the customer will predominantly be hospitals. So they are the ones who will be purchasing the product and then using it on patients, primarily in the hospital. So those who are being treated in the intensive care unit invasively, or quite often hospitals these days are also trying to send patients home once they've recovered a bit, but to continue their recovery journey at home. And so there's a big opportunity to be able to send this device home with patients, but ultimately the customer would be the hospital. The business model is quite simple. It is we have a hardware device which we will sell to hospitals, and then the little cartridge that you see is a consumable device, and so that's per patient. So for every patient that gets treated, they would basically have one cartridge. And at the moment, I think there's probably tens of millions of patients who are treated with respiratory humidification every year, so that kind of gives you an idea of the size of the market.
Mm-hmm. What has the capital raise journey been like?
Always a challenge, and I think to the point before, people in New Zealand particularly don't quite understand sort of the medical device journey. It is longer. There's great opportunity with it, but that return on investment doesn't happen in 6 months. So our first, we were actually able to get a whole lot of non-diluting funding early on through the likes of KiwiNet, which we were very, very grateful for. But then when the company actually spun out, we got our first round. We managed to raise about $1.5 million. And that was to get the company off the ground. We've since raised another $3 million to keep the company going. But yeah, every round's always been a challenge, but we're really, really grateful as well for those who have decided to part with us and come along the journey.
Awesome. That's pretty cool, Matt. How well does the device work with different respiratory rates? For example, infants with a high respiratory rate.
So at the moment, we're just going to be targeting adults and basically from teenagers upwards to tackle infants and neonates. We would need a slightly different form factor of the device, and so we're basically just going to target sort of what would be the larger market for us at the moment, which is mostly in adults, and then we will look to diversify into some of those different patient groups.
Awesome. You mentioned the PCB has a heater in it, but how does the cooling phase work? Good question.
Yeah, really good question. So it is passively cooled. So the big challenge with that is making sure that the thermal mass of the whole system is really low so that when you breathe on it, basically it can just cool instantly. So again, that's where actually the PCB worked out really, really well because it has very, very low thermal mass.
How is microbial buildup controlled?
Yeah, so the product itself won't actually build up won't start to rot, I guess, over time. So the product is only designed for sort of 7 days use, and we know that over that time you're not going to be able to get any build-up of anything harmful. It's also single patient use, so that the cartridge can only be used, or should only be used on one patient, and that just stops any transfer of bugs and things that you don't want.
Cool. How was it launching a product from a uni PhD project? Was the pace and additional administrative layer a hindrance?
I probably can't speak too much to that because I joined the company after it had spun out. But I know there were definitely some challenges in spinning out from the university. The university, I think, is a great incubator, and I think lessons that learnt by us, and probably others would probably share this as well, is actually staying in university as long as you can be an advantage, especially while you're trying to develop the core parts of your technology. But then there comes a point when you actually just need to get momentum and you need to just run. And so once you hit that point, definitely getting the funding and building a dedicated team and just going for it is key.
Awesome. Is the product washable?
No. No.
Short answer.
Do not put water in it, please.
What is the lifespan of a product? I think you said 7 days. Is it cleanable?
Yeah, so the actual device that will last, we're only going to specify 2 years to start, but it will last a lot longer than that. And then the other device, it's basically single patient consumable, so 7 days, and then you'd need to replace it.
How much faster does the breakthrough classification make the certification process?
There's different polls on that at the moment. I don't think the Trump administration's helped a lot by firing a significant number of the FDA. We've kind of heard for the type of classification we're likely to have to go for, it's probably around 1.5 years to go through that whole journey. But that is down from sort of 2 to 3 years potentially.
It's a lot shorter. I want some insight into how to persuade the hospital to purchase a medical product. What is the difficulty selling a product to the hospital?
That's a very, very tricky question. There are lots of different models around the world, and so every market operates slightly differently. And so we'll obviously be targeting the US market. And the big thing with the US market is reimbursement. So how is the hospital going to get paid, or how are they going to get funded to use your product? And so the government does fund a lot of these products. And so a key thing in the US is basically getting those codes that allow hospitals to get your product funded. And then in terms of convincing hospitals, there's a number of different ways. Sometimes it is a lot of having your own clinical reps going into hospitals. A lot of companies use distributors who do that for them, who have those broader networks. So there'll be a whole raft of different strategies that will be employed. I think one of the big things for RespirAq is we'll be looking to partner with one of those big distributors who has that network and has that sort of ins into a lot of hospitals, and we'll leverage their networks to get our product in.
Once you have got past FDA, how do you actually sell into a place like the US?
Through distributors again, is probably the main way that small companies would get in. Yeah.
If you breathe back in the air and moisture you have breathed out, is that bad for you?
No, it came from you. So yeah, there's not too much harm in giving it back. Yeah.
Amazing innovation. What does the interface side look like, assuming it's no longer going into the throat?
So we don't do interfaces, so I guess there are two main types of interfaces to treat patients. If you're intubated, you'll have an endotracheal tube put down your throat. You're usually asleep because it's not a very pleasant process. If you're awake, they typically will use a non-invasive mask, which just goes over your face and you'll breathe through that. Our device would essentially attach to either the endotracheal tube or the mask.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Will it make it to NZ hospitals?
Hope so. Yeah, it would be really good to see it in the New Zealand market, and another one of those New Zealand stories. So.
Mm-hmm. So would the process probably it goes to the US first and then NZ?
Yes. Getting regulatory approval in the States is one of our key milestones from an investor perspective, and so that it's obviously a much bigger market, but we would love to see the technology here in New Zealand as well.
Yeah, and once you make it big there, then it's so easy to come back here.
You say that.
Oh,
Nothing's easy in medical devices.
I work at a forklift company that is very different. You may have oversimplified the features. Detect respiratory rate, heat polymer. There seems to be a considerable number of components on the board for this.
There's only temperature sensors and a breath sensor. So Yeah. The temperature sensors are obviously for measuring temperature to make sure that we control the heater to the correct temperature. And then the breath sensor is for obviously detecting which way the breath is going.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of temperature is it heated to? Good question.
The transition temperature for the polymer is around 45 degrees. And so we just need to be above that to make sure that we're releasing moisture. And then we control the temperature to a point where we're actually heating the respiratory gas so that it's around 37 degrees when it's delivered to the patient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Sweet. We've run out of time, so thank you so much,
You're
Matt,
welcome.
for coming and speaking today. Cheers. Awesome. That's the end of our event then. Thank you so much for coming today. So first of all, thank you so much to our lovely speakers, MedTech IQ Aotearoa, GPC Electronics, Globex and Callaghan Innovation. We couldn't be running this event without your guys' support. Thank you very much.